it is an aged care redevelopment. As you guys walked into site this morning, walking up the driveway, you might have seen to your right an existing red brick building, which is currently an existing aged care facility building. What we're doing for stage 1 of the project is building up 4 new buildings, 3 of them dedicated to apartments or independent living units, 1 of them an aged care facility. And then at the end of stage 1, everyone from the existing aged care facility will move into what we've built, and stage 2 will be demolishing the existing aged care facility and building up a new building there. So at the end of the project, we're going to have 100 aged care facility beds and 79 independent living unit apartments, replacing what is currently 88 residential aged care beds. So first of all, hours of work on the project, Monday to Friday is 7 to 5 and Saturday is 8 to 12. So all work must be in accordance with these hours unless we advise you otherwise. I'll give a quick overview of our site logistics and layout. So this is where we are in the site office. As we walk out of the site office, turn right, we've got our first aid facility and we've got toilets going up and down. And behind the toilets and first aid, we've got all the lunch sheds and change rooms, so you guys will all be allocated your own shed. And then female toilets to the left as we walk out of the door, and then a swipe entry just outside. So the site, so we've got 4 buildings. So the site is the yellow area here. So the 4 buildings I was talking about, we've got Stephen Street, so that's a 5-story building, of apartments. So level 2, which is where you guys will be working the cleaners, we're aiming to finish that level by Friday to show the client. So you guys are doing your final clean there. So access to that building is either via a scaffold, via an internal staircase, or via a builder's lift. The next building is the Racketh building, so this entire building here, so that's the residential aged care facility building. That's an 8-story building of care suites, and so that's the aged care specific building. So access to that building is via a hoist, via scaffold, and that's it. And then we've got 2 levels of basements, which you can access via the lift in the Stephen Street building and the hoist in the Racketh building. And then up the top of the hill, we've got our heritage building and our gatekeepers' apartments here. And then the courtyard area where I think you guys will be working is in the centre here. So access to each of these buildings from the front gate is, we've got our OSD tank excavation ongoing, so that's shifted access a little bit. So access is down the footpath, down to the site office, go along the footpath here, through Stephen Street and through Racketh, so that's the way to enter each of the buildings. Access to the heritage building is through the scaffold, level 5 of Racketh. That's about it for the site logistics and layout. Access, egress and security. After this induction, when you guys hand your induction forms to Eddie, our site security guard, along with your relevant white cards and licenses, you'll get an access card for the site. If you've worked in a multiplex job before already, you might already have the card, so that'll be updated to be specific to this site. So every morning when you come to site, you'll scan in with security, and every afternoon when you leave site, you'll scan out with security. So toilets on this project, as I mentioned, we've got all the facilities to the right as we leave our site office. We do have toilets throughout the project as well. So Stephen Street level 3, we've got a working toilet. Racketh level 3 and level 7, we've got temporary toilets, and then we've also got toilets outside the heritage building and outside the gatekeepers building. So facilities and amenities that we provide must be kept clean and tidy at all times. If there's any issues, just please let your supervisor or let us know. And there's no smoking allowed on site. We do have a designated smoking area established next to our site security shed, so if you need to smoke, then please use that area. And then anywhere outside the site boundaries, you're allowed to smoke, but just as long as it's not on site. So injuries that occur on site must be reported to first aid. So we've got 5 fully trained first aiders on the project now. At any one time, there will always be one of these guys in the first aid shed. We've got nurse call stations set up throughout the project, so every level of every building we've got at least one, and you can find these with signage. And we do have nurse call stations or nurse call buttons set up throughout the compound area as well. We've got medical centres in the area in case of a severe injury, such as St Vincent's Hospital and Paddington Medical Centre. So we've got a crane on site, as you guys probably would have seen when you walked in. So anyone needing to book lifts from the crane, we have a crane board meeting at 2:30 every afternoon, booking crane lifts for the following day. And we've also got a hoist servicing the Racket building and a builder's lift serving the Stephen Street building to get materials up there. So in terms of getting to site, we've got no parking available on site. We do have parking in the area. It can be quite hard to find 24-hour parking, but there are parks around. And then in terms of getting transport, we've got trains going to King's Cross and Edgecliff Station, which are the nearest train stations, both about a kilometre away or so. And then we've got buses going between Bondi Junction and the city, so going up and down Oxford Street.
Who is the station?
What was that, sir?
389.
389, sorry?
Yeah.
Where does it go to?
Station?
So that's the buses?
Yeah, bus stop.
So at Oxford Street, so if you go up Brown Street, so that's at the top of Oxford Street.
Yeah.
So it's about 800 metres away. And then, yeah. So emergencies and incidents. So I'll just quickly run everyone through the emergency evacuation procedure. So we've got an emergency evacuation point, which is as we walk out the two front gates, turn right. There's a little park called the Dillon Street Reserve, so that's the emergency evacuation point, directly behind all the lunch sheds and change rooms on site. So if the emergency evacuation alarm goes off, there's a few rules that must be followed. So everyone stop work immediately, follow the instructions that our emergency wardens and supervisors issue, leave the area that you're working in a safe, calm manner without using any lifts or hoists, and then proceed to the designated emergency assembly area. And at that stage, roll call will be conducted to ensure that everyone's accounted for. So the emergency management team that we've got on the project, I'll just run everyone through it quickly. So we've got our Chief Warden, Lucas McEwen, who's our site manager, our Deputy Chief Warden, Bill Manning, who's our Senior Site Supervisor, and then depending on the area that you're working in, you have one of these guys as your area wardens. So in terms of Stephen Street, so Ian Loudon is the area warden, who you guys have become quite familiar with. And we've also got our security guard, Eddie, our WHS committee chairperson, Peter Connell, or Gunner, as he's known, and one of our first aid attendants. So Lucas McEwen, our site manager, is the after hours emergency contact. His phone number is on the front fence and also on the security shed. So any after hours emergencies, please contact him. Working safely, so you guys are all engaging in high risk activities. So you'll sign into your safe work method statements at the end of this induction, which basically outline all the control measures for all your activities that you're undertaking. So please ensure that at all times all the relevant control measures are in place. And if there's ever any issues, please let us or your supervisors know. So we've got a couple of unauthorised access areas or restricted access areas on the project, so including our heritage building, the western portion of that building is restricted access, and the existing aged care facility building is also restricted access. So drug and alcohol testing on the project. Once a month we have random drug and alcohol testing on the project. They'll test for the following drugs on screen, as well as testing for alcohol. So there's obviously a zero level of tolerance for anyone turning up to work under the influence of drug and alcohol. And anyone who returns a positive result will be sent home deemed not fit for work. So testing will either be random on a monthly basis, or it could be following an incident or an accident. If anyone's taking any prescribed medication, we need something in writing from your medical practitioner that you can safely perform all your normal work duties. We need you to inform your supervisor or line manager, and then declare to the independent provider, if you do get tested, any medication that you've taken within the last week prior to the test. PPE, so PPE is mandatory while working on the project, so including safety helmets, so hard hats, boots and reflective vests, as well as anything task specific that might be outlined in your safe work method statements. Please ensure at all times when you are working on site that you are wearing all the relevant PPE. Consultation, so we've got a work health and safety committee on the project as well, so made up of various representatives from several of our subcontractors. You'll see these guys around site wearing the red hard hats that say Work Health and Safety Committee on them. Once a week within this committee we'll do a safety walk, identify any safety hazards on the project, and try and close them out as soon as possible. So wrapping up, so the Building Code 2013 is applicable on the project. Environmental controls, so there's a few environmental controls that might be outlined in your SWIMS environmental method statement or environmental management plan, so just ensure that they're all adhered to at all times. Quality, we've obviously got a big emphasis on quality on the project as well. So that involves installing materials and equipment in accordance with current drawings, specifications and manufacturer's recommendations in a tradesman-like manner, not defective, and ensuring that all materials are handled, stored and protected in a manner to prevent damage, deterioration or loss. And then finally, our final slide is our Q&A slide. So this just correlates to all the questions on the back of your induction forms, or the answers to each of the questions. If everyone just wants to quickly go through, check that they've got the right answers and correct anything that could be wrong.